So I was talking about colors the other day and on your controls and how, for years I've always used the in the user-defined colors mainly because they play nice with duplicating and they also work well with um, your layers. They do what they're supposed to do. That sort of thing all works. If you delete the layer, the color comes back. But they're dull. You only get 8 of them, and they're not all that exciting. And then I had moved over to using, um, the wireframe colors in RGB. So this one's the index, and this is the RGB. These buttons just auto quickly do that for you, which do play nice with layers, which is cool. But when you duplicate them, they go black. And sometimes, or most often, when you reference that rig into a new scene, all your controls go black. So that's not really all that helpful. So then I started going back to, using index colors, on the display. I hate using the overrides, to be honest, because, you throw them into a layer and, because I'm doing it on the shape node, the templating and referencing doesn't work. Your playback still works, which is good. You can turn that off and on. And it doesn't matter if you do it directly on the object or on the shape node. If you do it directly on the object, I just lost it. Drawing overrides. Let me just turn it on. Let's pick a good color. That's not a great color, but whatever. I'll make a new layer. You see it loses the color. I delete the layer. Color's gone for good, which is why I put it on the shape node. Yes, you can, take this, group it, and then put the group into the layer instead, and then colorize that. That will work, but you still have that same problem of your your templating and your referencing not work. Your visibility still works, which is good. So that's why I use shape nodes. But I wanted to get some colors that aren't necessarily in the index, and they did add, which is really cool. When you do your overrides, you can change it to RGB and choose any RGB color you want. There we go. Let's do like a purple. That's cool. So I thought, all right, that'd be handy. I'll definitely do that. So I decided that, I'll go ahead with that. I'll put it on the shape node, do the overrides, and just make a quick tool to help myself out with that. Now there's a bunch of colors I don't necessarily use because they're either dull or they're already used for other things. So with multiple selections, this green I stay away from, this white I stay away from. If I take another object and let's deform this with the cluster. By default, it's been turned off now, but normally you have what's called display affected, and that's what that is. So if you're using a joint or a deformer or sometimes even constraints, things like that, it's going to show you what's being affected by that, and that's what that purple color is. So I avoid that color as well. So what I decided to do is to update and streamline my tool set. So I decided just to put the colors in there that I use 90% of the time and some of the tools I use most of the time. So what I'm going to do is just turn off selection highlighting really quick so that you can see what it does easier. I do have all these selected. I can't really work this way, but a lot of animators like having that turned off so you can select control and then not actually have it be annoying to them. Anyway, these are just color buttons. It'll just color the objects you have selected. And the last 3 are some gray colors. And the main reason I have that is because you can use this tool to also, colorize shapes and things like that. So I can go in here and put a couple different gray shapes on there. If I hit default, it'll set it back to its default color. Along with that, I have a palette port here, so you can actually choose a color and get all your controls set to that color. One of the things that I was playing around with was that if, let's say, you have a color that you like, you can select a bunch of controls and then select that last color and hit match here, and it'll match those colors to that last one you had selected. Most of the time, I'm actually just doing the red, yellow, and blue curve controls. That's what auto does. It just looks at where they are in world space. If these guys are all frozen, doesn't matter. It's still going to see them as the right way. If I have sub-controls, I'll often set those to the pink and light blue and a little bit softer yellow. Maybe I can set that to orange as well. That's just a way to sort of differentiate those guys really fast. This button here will actually turn things off, but it doesn't lose the color. So if I turn them back on, those colors come back. Whereas default will just get rid of the color altogether and you start all over. Not a big deal. Since I do this a lot, I'll also thicken my curves a lot, or thin them, or set them to default. This is another one of those sad things that doesn't carry over, but that's why I have the button for it, so you can thicken them up as you need to. This one here is actually the same thing as if you were to go in there and scale the verts or the CVs of your controls. It's just a quicker way to do that, so you could just grab a bunch of, rather than going in here and using the manipulators, you just grab your control, let's say grab these two, and 50% them. Whoops, there we go. Oh, I still have component selected. There we go. Object selected. I don't have to go in there and get those verts. Generally, I put everything into an all keyable set, so that's what this button is here. So if I have something selected, hit the all keyable. If I don't already have an all keyable set, it'll create one for me, which is good. And then if I have a bunch of things selected, I can just click that. It'll put them all in there for me. And if you haven't worked with sets with animation, it's a much easier way to get all your controls. You can right-click to select all your controls, or you can actually just select the set and hit like S, and that'll actually key all your objects for you. The next one is a rename children or rename shapes. Often in Maya, your shape names will get off from your control names, and this is true of geometry as well. So I'll use it for that as well as for controls. And you just click that; it'll just rename those shape nodes for you and clean things up a little bit. Since I was doing a renamer, I just put a little marking menu on there to add the suffix _CTL. It's just a quick way to do that. I bet if I do it twice, yeah, I'll get double CTL. So maybe I'll do something to clean that up so people don't accidentally do too many suffixes on there. And then the last one is just visibility hide. So I almost always hide the visibility channel on my controls because you don't really want to key that. Since I added that, just like I did before, I decided to add a lock and hide scale, lock and hide translate, and lock and hide rotate. So those are all in there now too. So yeah, but I'm definitely going to be adding to this tool as time goes on. So if you have any suggestions or additions or anything like that, I'd love to hear them. And if you like the tool, let me know as well. All right, I hope it helps.